If someone asked me, what do you do? I'm a professional at risk assessment. Okay, Wall Street, address 101. In the news, a lot of humans will call me at different times, or they'll talk to me about making investments. And it's usually, I find, when people are maybe in trouble. What I'm going to talk to you about today is kind of how I got into investing and what I think is the best way to go about investing. I'm also seeing people that are teaching other people to invest, that I wouldn't let them teach me how to wash my I'll put it to you this way. I don't care. Speaking of which, I see a lot of people that even I know that have started trading academies. Trading academies. Exactly. Because most people that do this job are beating off. And I'm still telling you, the good ones are the ones that do it with their cameras off and not during meetings. Trading is serious, okay? Because it's you. I was on Wall Street. I was hanging, but I was just more concerned with getting high and having a good time wherever I was and going to parties. That's not how you got to think about anything, because nothing works like that, okay? So I'm going to tell you the story about how this works. I got lucky 2012. I was in Las Vegas, and I knew there was an IPO coming up. That IPO was the rock star of IPOs. When I say a rock star IPO in 2012, I'm talking about Facebook. Everybody uses Facebook. Everybody knows Facebook. Everybody knows everything about this thing. How could it not go through the ceiling? So everything in my mind is going like this. Of course, I know everything. My friend told me, he said, well, I mean, if you want some of that, I can get it for you. The thing's not even public yet, but I can get it for you, which is true. He can. And of course, I'm going to be a multimillionaire in 2 weeks because I'm going to get Facebook, and nobody can get Facebook, but I can get it way before everybody else, and it's going to go through the ceiling. He makes a phone call to Crete. There's a guy in Crete. He calls me, they make the introduction, he talks to me. I'm like, yeah, well, I've got a piece. I've got a significant, the minimum investment is $100,000. Well, that's great, because guess what? I have that much. I can get that much money right now. Awesome. Okay, so guess what I know? I know that Facebook is Michael Jackson, okay? Guess what I don't know? I really don't know anything about the stock market, okay? And that's the only reason that I think that that's going to do that. It's going to be big. The NASDAQ, everybody's going to be there. They're going to unveil this amazing thing called Facebook to the world. For the second time, it's going to explode. I'm going to do incredibly well for my first investment, and everything is going to be amazing. $100,000? Oh man, this is going to go 2 times. No. You know what? This could go fucking 6 times. Every time I go to bed, it gets better. The same friend of mine that put me in touch with this guy, and the same friend of mine that was dropping me off at the airport at that particular point in time. I remember him saying right away, he's like, why do you want that, dude? Why? You want to put your whole thing in? Okay. As the time gets closer, that's when things become real, because you're really going to press a button or you're going to make a decision. It's getting closer to the point when the IPO is coming along, and I haven't yet pulled the trigger on this, purchasing the stock and doing everything. I called my friend back, and he's in Los Angeles. I can hear the GPS turn left here. La Cienega Boulevard. And he's doing meetings nonstop. That's a real businessman. He's really meeting different people and putting together a deal, okay? So I hear the directions, and we're talking, and I'm like, well, what about and he's like, why do you want to do that? Like, why do you want I told him, I said, it's Michael Jackson, dude. This is Van Halen, dude. It's going to be amazing. He pulls the car over. I could hear the directions stop in the back of the phone. So that means he's pulled over. He goes, look, man, I got a meeting. I'm doing this thing. You want it, I got it for you. You want it, you got it. Whatever you want, I will help you. But I don't know why you want this thing so badly. He goes, this could go one way or the other. And you want to just toss a coin like that with something that you don't even have at this moment. He knocked some sense into me that day, and it was awesome. Facebook opened. The IPO went off. NASDAQ had a glitch. Stock went up, and it went straight down. It didn't do what everybody thought it would do. You cannot analyze everything. Real things happen in life and can change anything at any moment. That's the thing about investing. Is you have to feel it. It's a psychological effect on your mind. And you have to see how your mind reacts to different situations. It's a pressure situation. No matter what happens in trading, your ego has to be put aside. It's one of the hardest things to do in life. Even approaching people, or if you maybe want to be a salesman, or if you want to be anyone that approaches any situation, you have to have composure. You have to have a certain amount of balance. I had none of these things at that time. And especially because this is something that, and yes, of course, it's money. You could have it. It comes, it goes. If you think like that, you might want to think like that. But if you want to win, or if you want to be successful in this environment, and it is an environment, even if I'm sitting at this desk with a computer, it's an environment, because this is an ever-changing thing, constant. So at that particular time, to take your whole thing and put it on one thing, it's not the greatest idea. And I know a lot of people talk about that, and a lot of people talk about success in trading and when to feel that rhythm when it's going. All those things are all about psychology. The main thing is, it's the psychology of the way you think about everything. Now, jump forward a little bit. I had another investment that I really believed in, and I had that same amount of money, and I put a certain portion in it. On my first real trade, I lost almost half of my money. It did things to me psychologically that most people will walk away from, okay? I believe, because I've seen it. I've seen people walk away, I'm not doing this anymore, man. But at that moment, I had a choice. This is after the Facebook IPO, which I just sat and watched and said, wow, it's a good thing I'm not in this. And I had some good experience there, and then I had some really bad experience. That loss of almost half my capital that I didn't even own at that point in time happened very quickly. And that was because I believed in all this. Now I was reading about stuff. I was at another level. I was like, well, I got to understand, within a year of the Facebook IPO, I was starting to learn and read about companies and understand how they function and everything. But I still had this patriotism and this love of the company and the romanticism of owning something or having a piece of something that you believe in because of all these honorable things. Well, let me tell you something. CEOs have golden parachutes, and they like to jump out of planes a lot. I don't want to talk about this all the time. This is not going to be my main topic of every day. I don't want to be a stock analyst, and I don't want to tell you that I know everything about the markets. Nobody really knows. But you can get a good idea through doing deep research about things and getting in there as low as you can. Everybody says buy low, sell high. Yeah, that's a beautiful saying. 2020 is hindsight. Yes, you look back and you're sitting there going, yeah, I could have done that. Look how well that did, or look at that thing. Right around the time marijuana was happening, every bank was becoming a casino. Because when people came back to me and when I would say, go into the bank and set up your accounts and do all this stuff, they'd come back and be like, dude, I set up an account, but it's a 2-week wait to get my trading account. I was like, oh my God. They didn't care about Quaker State. They didn't care about IBM. They didn't care about any of these companies. But they knew one thing: marijuana is big money. And they saw the jumps but those jumps had already happened. And these people are coming in on something late. So that's what I'm saying is, if you want to set up your stuff, set it up early and have it there, right? You set up your gear, learn how to use your gear, your charts, all the tools that come to your advantage, and then move forward with that stuff. Don't go to bull boards. Bull boards can be very dangerous. A lot of these people are professionals that are getting paid by the click. And a lot of times what they're doing is they're either being paid to drop the price of the stock as much as they can or hold it down so a bigger entity can come in and buy that, and then they write it up for 10, 20 cents. They're doing this, they're hammering it. These guys are boiler room people. You don't want to mess with those people. Study the right humans. You gotta have a well-rounded style to you if you want to trade. There's so many different types of traders, investment bankers, economists that do these things with different securities, different bonds, different entities, all kinds of different ways to invest in things. But the simplest way is just to really start trading and looking at bigger companies like blue chips, because there's more information on them. You know, the higher the risk is when you're going into like pink sheets and really, really like startup companies that may or may not have anything. You really don't get enough information, and they're not as well known. Take $100 and make it into two, okay? If you can. See if you can do that. And if you can go further than that, do it. I have had it with these interruptions. I'm just kidding, guys. That's the other thing, is don't get distracted by anything. You don't need anybody, okay? The technical stuff you can learn. It's all on the net, all of it. This never used to be this way. That's why people used to have brokers. And that's another thing. People don't go to school to go to the casino, okay? They don't go to school to pull a slot machine. The coolest thing about trading or investing is learning how markets work, all markets. That is where you're going. Even with the marijuana industry. I would love to teach a master's class in marijuana. I'm sorry, I don't think it would go very far. Not with me. Not with me in front of the camera. That's yeah, actually it could go far. It could go so far that you may never come home. I think in the end, the most important thing that happened to me, okay, is this one thing. I lost that money, okay? The first one I got saved. I got a mulligan on Facebook. But the second thing was my second investment. I lost a good amount of money, and I could have been knocked out of the game. I could have just put my tail between my legs and I could have gone home. That was a lot of money to lose. Of course, someone's giving me the opportunity to play with a fair amount of money, like a third of someone's home. And I lost a good portion. But first thing I did was I went to see a doctor. Okay? And I said, man, something's wrong with me. I've never been unhealthy. Something was happening to me internally that I didn't understand was happening. And it wasn't over a long period of time. It might have been over 1 or 2 weeks completely. I think I had some anxiety. I had some things going on because I lost. And there's no way to recoup that. So you might even think to yourself, oh man, I'm such a loser. I don't really even think I've ever thought that in my life, but there's moments when you're like, whoa, is this the way it's gonna happen? Like how, you gotta know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them, Kenny Rogers. You gotta know when to let go. So what happened to me, I had that psychological effect had a physical effect on me where it was draining me, and I was thinking about it constantly because I got so involved so early with such a large sum of money. A very, very old, good friend of mine did something really, really cool. This guy sat me down and said, hey man, I got something for you. And I was like, I was a little bit down, but I was like, trying to figure out what these emotions were. And he said, here you go. And he gives me a watch. And I look at it and I look up and I'm like, man, I love you, dude, but this is the shittiest watch I've ever seen in my life. It's plastic. It's ridiculous. I don't do this. I do Tag Heuer. I don't know, whatever, Rolex. Give me something, man. You got money? And he goes, look at it. And so I look at this thing and I turn it over, and there's 2 nodules underneath the watch. And it was at that point that I realized that this is not necessarily just your average, ordinary, plastic, shitty-ass, motherfucking, ugly, no pussy-getting motherfucking watch. It's a fucking heart monitor. And that's all I need to know. And after that happened, I realized that I need to to level out my stuff and start thinking and focus. Take away the icing on these cakes and start focusing on what you don't want to play Jenga, man. Okay? This isn't, you get excited about stuff, it's going to turn into a house of cards. Put what you can afford on it. Start that way. I'm going to start selling shitty watches next week. Okay? They'll be $10. I think I get them from China for 30 cents. I'll see you next week, motherfuckers. Yay. Shit! Buy low, sell high, sell low, do whatever you want to do. Sit in the garage, talk to people. You know what gives you the license to be this is making some money on the stock market, everybody. And that's Wall Street Week. Thank you very much.